And again, we look at the one-link planar robot. This time we're on part E. Part E asks us to describe the one-link planar robot as a vector in both polar and vector form. So we need to talk about what those two things are. And so, again, resetting the stage. We start with, we got a robot, x, y coordinates, theta, and L, describing it. We've worked out these equations that get the different parts. When we're talking in vector form, it takes advantage of, uses the unit vectors I, which is 1 in the x direction, 0 in the y direction, and the vector j, which is 1 unit in the y direction but nothing in the x direction. So it uses these two unit vectors to describe the function, and so you would say that L is equal to whatever part of L is in the x direction, the magnitude of L in the x direction, times that unit vector I, plus the magnitude of L in the y direction, times the unit vector j. And again, those are little arrows on top. They get a little scrunched up, but we're used to doing that for next. So the vector L can be described using Lxi and Lyj. And then the way we calculate those values are, these are the same as these equations up here. That this, remember, since that is the x component, xy of it, this is Lx, and this is Ly. And probably I should have used blue there so that the colors matched what was over on the graph beside it. But yeah, so this is Ly. And so that's really what we're talking about in vector form, is this part, is this equation right here. That L is in that form. The Lx is the x part times the y, and the y part times the j. Polar form uses the form that L is defined as the magnitude of L at the angle theta. And so that's the simple way to write that one. Not as much goes into it. And why do we have these two different forms? Well, they're useful for two different things. Polar form is very good for multiplying and dividing. And it's also an easy way to write it. Vector form is a little bit more complicated. But it's easy to add and subtract. Because when we add, we'll see soon that when we add and subtract vectors, we have to add the x components together, we have to add the y components together. So if we already have it broken apart, it's very easy to do that. And so that's the two different forms that we'll use for vectors. We'll talk about vector form and polar form.